Right, so here we're going to be doing a review of the new ROSALÍA album, MOTOMAMI. This is the third studio album by Spanish singer-songwriter ROSALÍA, following up her previous album, Mal Querer, which ended up being both a critical and a commercial success for ROSALÍA, even outside of Spain, garnering loads of mainstream attention in the Western community as well, and garnering collaborations with some of the biggest artists such as Bad Bunny and Travis Scott. And on this album, a lot of what she was doing on her previous album, she utilized elements of flamenco, but fusing that with R&B and experimental pop. And ROSALÍA, for an artist who's exploring on these experimental pop routes and fusing it with Latin pop, a genre that at one point wasn't even that recognized outside of its home country, and considering the amount of popularity and mainstream recognition she has gained from doing this, it's quite impressive. But why must that be? Maybe it's because of just how much ROSALÍA stands out vocally. Her vocals have always been one of the best aspects about her, and on this new album, she continues to show that her vocals are just on a whole new level, just like she did on the last album. But unlike on her last album, where she was exploring elements of flamenco and experimental pop, she kind of is exploring a little bit less flamenco on this new album, and a little bit of reggaeton, or more alternative reggae, mixed with still some elements of experimental pop. And while there isn't as much flamenco going on this album, there is so much more going on this album, and this album is probably ROSALÍA's most all over the place, but also her most cohesive album to date. So while yes, this album still does have some forms of flamenco as well as experimental pop, there's also so much more. You've got elements of art pop, you've got some elements of alternative reggae, you've got some elements of bachata, you have some elements of classical roots, and even hip-hop, a couple of moments where ROSALÍA is seen rapping. On tracks like Biz Cushido, where ROSALÍA maintains a really good flow while still incorporating a lot of elements of her pristine vocals with the da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da kind of ad-libs or more a cappella influences, which is true on a couple of other tracks here, like the song La Fama with The Weeknd, which was one of my favorite singles of last year. I still stand by that. It's got elements of bachata mixed with art pop and R&B, incorporating The Weeknd's typical style, but him singing in Spanish, and he does this while still maintaining his own vocal qualities without saying awkward in any way. And the styles from these two artists fuse together so nicely, combined with the bongos with the beat as well as the whistles and ROSALÍA's humming, a cappella style humming in the background. It just goes together so nicely. But this is just one of the more low-key moments that this album has to provide. Simply put, there are moments on this album that range from beautiful to tragic to dark to also very out there and crazy as well. So some examples of some more beautiful, refined tracks include the song Candy, which starts off with some very subtle chords, but then the very glistening and beautiful piano notes kick in with some very, very faint and also very gentle vocal humming in the background as ROSALÍA's vocals kicks in more, and with the lyrics talking about the tragic feelings that one experiences in a relationship, how you got one person who seems to miss the significant other more, ROSALÍA acting out that it's the other one who feels this way, even though she clearly feels for that way deep down as well. We also have the song Jealous, which is arguably one of the most beautiful and tone-deaf and sad, but also tragic and kind of dark songs ROSALÍA has ever made, as on this song, she is talking about her nephew, who she laments having not seen in so long due to this new lifestyle that she has adapted to, combined with the fame that she has garnered while living in Los Angeles, and using that as an opportunity to talk about some of the dark sides in the streets of Los Angeles, including the very serious and very non-intimate stuff that goes on relating to drugs, as she very explicitly dives in on this topic as if she's been there before. We also have the song Como Unji, which is a beautiful piano-driven track, ROSALÍA expressing her vocals once again, but the passages that it goes through in this song is quite subtle, but also very very transcending too. And then the closing track, Sakura, which is the most low-key moment of this album. It's a live track, merely just mainly a piano ballad. But if there's anybody out there who really needs a demonstration on ROSALIA's vocals, or if there's anyone out there who so blindly and stupidly thinks ROSALIA can't sing, just listen to this song and then come back to me. And I love the lyrics, how she dives in talking about the beauty of the world and a relationship, and referencing that with the Sakura blossom, how something has its moment to blossom, but of course that moment quickly fades away. And I think it works as a very good closing to the album. But as much as there are so many beautiful moments on this album, there's also some very hard-hitting and somewhat experimental moments on this album, like the opening track, SAOKO, with its very raw drums mixed with the distorted bass. ROSALIA's performance is very cheeky, and the lyrics talking about transformation just goes so well with her style here. And then we get at the end with more pianos kicking in, so kind of more soul inspiration here. It goes from experimental pop to soul very quickly, and does this without taking away from the main focus of the song or the main vibe of the song. We also have the track Cute, which just, it's a bit difficult to explain words, but just imagine you took Arca's Kick 3 album, some of the stuff she was embarking on that album with the experimental club reggae, as well as some of the stuff that FKA Twigs might have been doing on some of her EPs, as well as incorporating some more beautiful vocals. And that's what this track basically is. It's just from the distorted bass to the drums to the passages and piano switch up it goes through. It's great. It's such a banger. We also have the song Diablo, which also goes through a lot of different chord changes and progressions, some very beautiful reggae and house-inspired instrumentals, and then a sudden but very beautiful transition to a James Blake vocal performance here. And I think it comes in so suddenly, but just, it still catches me off guard, but I love it. And it also ties into the lyrics of this song being about how one person within a relationship may lose touch of themselves and start doing it more for the money and start trying to be in it more for the money and forgetting their true purpose. And James Blake's part here definitely makes sense both lyrically and sonically. Then we have the song La Combi VERSACE with Takesha, which is definitely one of the biggest Latino bangers, if not one of the biggest bangers of the year overall. Just from ROSALIA and Tekashi's chemistry still continuing to prevail on this track as they share bars across each other. The chemistry is unbelievable here, just like it was on the Weekend track, and just like it was on the song Linda. And the instrumental, while not the best here, and I do think some of the chords at the end do get a bit tedious, I still think that the passages and the percussion here works really well. But yeah, overall, this album is chock full of highlights, chock full of both hard-hitting bangers to very emotional and intricate ballads, combined with ROSALIA's amazing vocals, and some very luscious, beautiful moments, and even some personal moments, as yes, lyrically, this is ROSALIA's most personal album, and if you're a non-Spanish speaker like I am, and you really like the sound of this album, I highly recommend you take the time to translate some of these lyrics, because there are, while some simple lyrics here, just to coincide with the idea of a banger, there are some other very personal and deep lyrics on this album. I think my biggest and one of my only criticisms of this album are some of the very short moments that come in so suddenly and don't really offer as much of a very clean song structure, or don't really do much for the album. This is present on tracks like Bulerius, which I do think the idea of incorporating marching style drums with her rapping and singing in the background is quite interesting. I just feel that this song doesn't really provide enough sonically or cohesively to really fill in that gap, especially so early into the album. And then there's also the title track, which for the title track may act as more of a midpoint towards the album, and I was expecting it to be a splitting point as well, but considering how both the first and second half of this album provide their own fair share of highlights in different formats and styles, I don't really see as much of a midpoint, and it just feels a bit too short, ends too abruptly, a bit too cut and dry, lacks substance, and I don't think ROSALIA's performance is one of the best on this song. And I think in terms of tracks I don't like, really the only one I'm still not a huge fan of is Chicken Teriyaki, which, while I do think it makes a little bit more sense within the context of the album, I still think it does lack some substance here. It's really missing something in instrumental, and there are times where I find Rosalia's performance to be fun, but other times where I find it to be a tad goofy, although I do really like the Mike Dean reference here. But still, these are just a few gripes that I have with this album. Overall, I'm really impressed with this album. Rosalia continuing to show why she is definitely probably the queen of Latin pop right now, and why she is an artist to continue looking at, from her very adventurous and forward-thinking production to her blending elements of pop music and experimental music with a style of music that's very popular from her home country, to her amazing vocals. Everything is here, and I don't know what more you can want. So that's why I'm feeling a strong 8 out of 10 on MOTOMAMI. So thank you guys for watching this review. If you guys enjoyed, let me know with a like, comment, subscribe, or follow me on TikTok if you have TikTok and you're new on this channel on YouTube. But tell me what you guys thought of this review. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you like this album? Did you not like this album? What was your favorite track? What was your least favorite track? Let me know in the comments. Show your support, guys. But until then, this is RhinoRatesMusic signing out, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.